Good morning, everybody. My name is George Tift, and I'd like to welcome you to Boomer Bust. I'm really glad you're here. Today, I'd like to talk to you about The List. The List is a story that occurred to me. It's a true story, and about me and my late wife. We had been married about 8 years, and we were sitting down one day, and we were having a conversation about dying, because I grew up in a family where my dad was much, much older than my mother, and he made it a point to acquaint us with the fact that everybody dies. And so I'm having this conversation with my late wife about dying, and she made the statement. She said, "You cannot die before me." Well, I found that quite a curious request, so I prodded and poked a little bit further in, and she told me about how she was in love with a guy since she was like 13 years old, and when he was 18 years old, around 1968, he ended up getting drafted. And he went into the Army, and he got involved in the Tet Offensive, and as all us boomers know, 68 was a real tough year in Vietnam. Well, about 6 to 8 weeks after he left to go to Vietnam, he got killed. And that was right around the time she found out she was pregnant. And she had a son from that. And so, that's how it ended up, that she didn't want to go through that pain again of losing somebody. So I said to her, okay, fine, if it's going to be that way, I want a list. I want a list of women I'm pre-approved to see, should you go home to be with Jesus before me. And it actually became a joke for us. For the next 22 years, we'd be out and about, and I'd see a cute little honey at the mall, and I'd kind of give her a shoulder and say, "Yo, baby, can you put one of those on the list?" And she would slap at me, "She'd kill you." But, it was kind of a running joke for us. Well, in 2012, I had been offered a recording deal with a label down in Nashville. So I flew down to meet with them, and it was exciting. My dream was coming through. And I turned around and I agreed to what they wanted to do, and I flew back to Connecticut, and my wife was all excited for me. She was one of the greatest supporters of me and my music. Well, a week later, she went in to have a polyp removed from her sinus, just a tiny little dot of a thing, and it came back cancerous. So I contacted the label, and I told them that everything would have to be put on pause because she's my wife. I love her, and I need to be here for her. They agreed, not an issue. So once they biopsied this polyp, it turned into like a worm. And it grew up into her sinus cavity, wrapped around one of her eyes, and went into her brain cavity. And they had to do this radical surgery on her, literally just kind of move her brain out of the way to get at this tumor. Well, she went through radiation and all the stuff she had to go through. I think it was like 30 radiation treatments. And, after all that, the end of May of 2013, they declared her cancer-free. But there was a curious thing that kept having us come back to the oncologist every couple weeks, and in my mind, I'm thinking, well, she's cancer-free. Why do we got to stay on top of it like this, And then the beginning of August of 2013, just a couple months after she was declared cancer-free, she was talking with the oncologist, and she was complaining about a pain in her stomach. And the oncologist's exact words, "We don't think it's anything, but we'll do a scan." And it was then that it occurred to me, the whole time she had been with them, and this was a major university hospital, all the time that she had been in their treatment, they never once did a full body scan. So around the 14th of August, they did a scan. We got the results around the 19th. And it came back liver metastases, too numerous to count. They arranged for hospice care, and 5 days later, maybe 10 days later, it was the 29th of August, she passed away. And so the next day, I had my kids come in to help me clean up the house, you know. And I figured while they were doing that, I would turn around and I'd clean out her purse. And I can honestly say in the 30 years we were married, I never once rifled her purse. You know, I could dress a deer in the living room, but a woman's purse, that's no man's land. So as I'm going through it, I am going through it. I'm literally opening up seams in it, everything. Because I'm figuring if she hid something, you know, whatever. Well, when I'm going through the pictures of our grandchildren in her purse, in between two of the pictures was a note. And all it said was Cindy, California, had a phone number. Well, I had known Cindy since I was 10 years old. I was best man at her wedding in 1976. And we were always real good friends. I've known her, as I said, since I was 10 years old. And so just a couple days after I found the note, you know, this is like 3 days after my wife has passed, I called up Cindy in California. We were in Connecticut. And I asked her, is there any reason you know of why your name and number would be in my wife's purse? And she had only met Cindy a couple times at class reunions. And what was neat about that, though, was that I had told my wife about Cindy early in our relationship. And I guess, you know, it was unique in that as a man, my wife didn't have a problem with me having a girlfriend. Then again, there were 3,000 miles between us, so it wasn't like I was going to go have a weekend fling, you know. And when I'm talking with Cindy, she had no idea why the number would have been there. So I told her about the list. Now, if there's a beauty in cancer, is it removes the filters. After my wife got diagnosed with cancer, if we needed to talk about something, we just went straight at it. There wasn't no dancing around the topic, you know. It's much easier just to clean up the glass in the china shop than to try and walk around it. And so it created 11 months where I didn't have a filter, you know. And so we turn around, and I'm talking with Cindy, and without the filter, I told her about the list. And it wasn't so much that the candle fell out of the holder, right? It's like the whole candle holder fell off the mantle. I think she thought I was crazy. Well, just a few days after that, I started having really bad panic attacks. And if you've ever had panic attacks or ever lost somebody really close to you, you'll understand that it's devastating. And so I couldn't go to the grocery store because I'd go in there, and because of the surgery they had done on her and all the radiation treatments, my wife couldn't eat very much, and so she got kind of addicted to those little things of pre-made tapioca pudding, you know. And I'd go in the grocery store and I'd walk by that section and it would break me, you know. I'd just get crushed. So my younger brother, his wife, was being commissioned as, I think, a wing commander. She was a nurse in the Air Force Reserve down in Georgia. So I figured I'd go hang down there. I'll go for that because a lot of my family was going to be there. And this way I can just get away, you know, run away. And so I get to Georgia, and all's well and good. But as I'm sitting there, I'm sitting in the front row at this ceremony, and there's a lot of people here. And as long as I was in the front row, I didn't see the people behind me, and I didn't have any issues. But at the end of the ceremony, it turned into a big meet and greet mixer kind of thing. And I started to have a panic attack. And I went out, and I had to sit about 300 feet from the building just to regain myself. And my brother's wife, she had been in Afghanistan numerous times. She saw the worst of the human condition. And I believe she honestly knew what was going on with me. And she had, you know, helped me through it. Well, funny thing was, right after that ceremony, all my family was leaving. So now I was going to be in Atlanta all by myself. And getting to Atlanta, when I checked on flights, the only seat available was that last row on the airplane, the very back one, right next to the toilet, the one that doesn't even tip back. And I was like, there ain't no way I can do that. So for the first time in my life, I'd bought myself a first-class ticket. Well, that actually worked to my advantage, because in talking with my brother, I was like, I don't know what to do. I can't, I don't want to go back to Connecticut. And I'd mentioned Cindy, and, he said, well, you got a first-class ticket. You can exchange that and go pretty much anywhere you want. So I booked a flight to Sacramento from Georgia. And we have a thing in our family. You don't tell them that you're coming until you're on your way. That way they can't back out. So I had turned around, and I didn't call Cindy till I got to Minneapolis. And I asked her if she could just pick me up at the airport and bring me to my hotel. I was going to stay like a week or something like that. And she agreed. And so when I get to Sacramento, as I'm at the top of the escalator coming down, I see Cindy standing at the bottom. And for the first time since my wife had died, I felt peace in my heart. And we hugged, and it was one of those friend hugs that just comes at the right time. And so as we're leaving the airport to the hotel, Cindy asked me, George, what's going on? And because the filters had been removed, I just looked at her and said, well, I'm looking for the person I'm going to spend the rest of my life with, and I need to know if it's you. Well, we're back to the candle falling out of the holder. I was in town for a few days, and Cindy, worked during the day, and we'd get together, when she was home, and just talk, or she'd just hold me. I'd just sit on the couch, and she would just hold me. And the night before I left to go home, we were sitting on the couch, and she was holding me, and she asked if there was anything she could do for me. And I said to her, yeah, could I sleep with you? And it wasn't like I wanted to have sex with her. I hadn't slept since I left Connecticut. And I just wanted to feel a body next to me. And so she agreed, and, I think I slept fully clothed in the bed. But when I woke up in the morning, I knew I loved her. And I knew that my life was entering a new stage. And I got back to Connecticut. I reached out to the label and asked if, I explained what had gone on and if the deal was still kind of on the table. And they agreed. And so I gave away everything in the house. I put my tools and my music equipment in my truck, and I drove to Nashville, stayed with my brother, and recorded my first album. And then Cindy and I got married a year later, and we went out on tour. We went out on tour for 3 years and did over 400 events. I'm saying all this to speak to the people out there that are in the hard places. Sometimes, no matter how dark it seems, you'll come to a place where the light at the tunnel is not a train. And if you go to that light, it'll draw you close, and it'll bring you to a new place in your life. So my call to action this week is for those people that are struggling with hard things. Don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone and see what's out there for you. Because there's more. There's always more. It doesn't end till it's over. So if this message has touched you in any way, shape, or form, I'd appreciate it if you'd like, share, subscribe, do all that stuff. And just remember, I love you, man. I feel for you. Till next time, Boomer out. Peace to you.